Hey, English 11, Mr. Nass here. We're looking at lesson 6 for Persepolis. A couple of assignments here. First, I'm going to guide you through the must-do activity, which talks about the party, the first chapter of this section. And we talk about some of the transitions that graphic novel writers use to accomplish some effects in their writing. And then I'll talk about the mastery check. So let's go ahead and get started. You should open up this this assignment, the must do, first, and have this open on your computer while I go through some of these ideas and give you some of the responses that fit. So first, pause this video and read pages 40 to 46 in your book, and then we're going to talk through some of the parts. And now you're back because you paused and read. So let's talk about transitions. We'll talk about 6 types of transitions that comic or graphic novel writers use, and they're for different effects and to communicate different things. When we say transitions, we're talking about what is between the panels. So we talked about panels and gutters when we started, and in that gutter space, when we talk about transitions, we're talking what is in the gutter space, what's between the events of the panels and what connects them. So here we go. The first type of transition is moment to moment. This would be a simple storytelling. So we're going one thing after another, very close in time, no gaps between, not really a shift in perspective. It's just one event and then the immediate next event that follows. That's a moment-to-moment transition. So on your must-do, the first question says, what's the effect of using a moment-to-moment transition between these panels? So here we have Marjan in the first one, deciding she's going to demonstrate, deciding she's going to protest, and immediately she's told rather loud, and she says, well, we're going to do it anyway. So what's the effect? Well, the author here is just telling the narrated story right in order, trying to tell exactly what happened, how the conversation went. So by creating panels that transition like this, we really feel like we are following the conversation as it goes, moment by moment. That's how I would explain the effect. Second, we have action to action. We don't have any dialogue here, any thought bubbles, any voiceover. We just have action to action right next to each other. Shows a single subject progressing through a movement. So just shows the action as it happens, but between 2 panels. So that would be another transition. Now we're jumping back to page 39, and we're looking at this transition, this action to action transition on page 39 that we just read for this last time. And it's showing a few things because we have the character here obviously hitting both of them and then leaving a mark on them and the anger that she has. So it's demonstrating the anger, it's demonstrating her frustration, it's showing maybe the abruptness or the the violence of that action, the anger in her response is shown in this action to action transition. Now let's talk scene to scene. Scene to scene transitions take place across time and space. So when you go from panel to panel, you're no longer looking at the same scene like in a movie. You're jumping to a whole different place, whole different time. They're still connected because it's telling the same story, but it's jumping between scenes and times to try to tell things in a larger time frame, try to shrink it down, help you understand what happened. So here on this page, jump. What's the effect of using this scene to scene on page 41, which you just read? Basically, it's telling you the progression of how people felt about the shot and what happened. Did these things happen moment to moment? No. Here we have, for a few months at the top, it says he did try. He tried a dozen prime ministers. It's trying to walk you through what happened to the Shah as people kept revolting and as he felt like he still wanted to maintain power, but it wasn't working. And then it talks about statues torn down, effigy burned, and then basically it was time for him to go. These things happened over a large span of time and in different places, but this one single page uses scene-to-scene transitions to show you that progression in a very short amount of text. Next one is subject to subject. Subject to subject would be, you're in the same scene, you're looking at the same thing that's happening, but now we're jumping to different perspectives and different people within the scene and how they're interacting with what's going on. So we have the teacher coming back to school and telling the students, hey, tear out all the pages with the Shah from your textbook. And the kids, so we have the teacher perspective, then we jump into the students, and the students are saying, she was the one who told us that the Shah was chosen by God. So that's subject to subject. We go from the teacher to the student's perspective. Then we go to the interaction that follows, which is back between the students and the teachers again. So it's sort of like the camera angle jumps and looks at different perspectives. That would be subject to subject. So what's the effect here? Well, we see how the Shah now leaving and the revolution kind of happening here is changing school and is changing the interactions between the students and the teacher and how the Shah is viewed within the school atmosphere and how that changed from earlier on in the book. Jumping back again earlier in the book to aspect. Now instead of a subject would be like a person in the story. We're looking at different aspects. So maybe different ways to look at the same scene. And here we see the fire at the cinema that happened, and we see the fire here from a certain viewpoint where you see the firemen showing up, and then you have inside, you have the fire happening, kind of spirits and people running, and some of the some artistic demonstration of that event. So what's the effect here? Well, it's showing how significant this event was. It's showing what it looked like from like a bird's eye perspective, and then also the tragedy of what's happening within that theater. So that's aspect to aspect, changes the viewpoint. And then a non sequitur, you don't see these very often, but that's where there's really no connection. The two panels, they don't really have anything that connects them. That has its own effect because it kind of gets you to try to think about how they're connected, how they may be connected. And so it kind of plays with the reader's mind a little bit, a certain way, but you very rarely see those things. So those are all the transitions, and I just talked through all the answers and some of the effects that you might be able to add here to your must-do. And now you'll jump into the mastery check. The mastery check for this lesson is to now do independent graphic novel analysis and study guide for the rest of this section, which is pages 47 to 71. You'll see again that the chapters are divided and have titles. Any key vocabulary that we've been talking about is bold, and you need to answer the questions. It's a couple of pages, and then submit that as your mastery check for lesson 6. That is all I have, and we'll see you in the next lesson.